Alright, so I've been checking out some pretty meh Christmas movies lately, and I've heard about a lot about this particular one that I'll be reviewing in this video, and boy is it a goodie. Merry Christmas everyone, Blood Moon Bobby here. So I've reviewed some pretty mediocre Christmas movies as of late, like Sony Pictures' The Star and Illumination's The Grinch. It wasn't that I was purposely trying to find mediocrity, it was just that I've done trailer reactions to both of these films, so I figured that now would be a good time, especially since, it was around Christmas time that I, get the chance to review them. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today it's a really good movie, and also, I didn't actually do a trailer reaction to this one. When this movie first came out, I heard a lot of people talking about it on social media and how great it was, and I was thinking of reviewing it back when it first came out, but then I was like, maybe I should hold off and wait until Christmas, which, especially given what the movie is about, it actually makes a lot of sense to do it. I actually watched this movie on Christmas Eve, and we're going to be talking about Netflix's Christmas film Klaus today, and it's a really good movie. Why is it so good? Let's talk about it. So, in case you don't know, because I'll admit, before I watched this movie, I really wasn't sure what it was about at all. So, Klaus is the story about a postman named Jesper, played by Jason Schwartzman. I really like him as an actor. It's just that I have a tough time saying his name. Try saying it 5 times fast. And he's a postman that's assigned to this really creepy town called Spearmansburg, which is a really rundown place. The people there are beyond unfriendly. They're constantly trying to beat each other up, and they also want to beat Jesper up. But he's assigned to that place because he has to deliver 6,000 letters from Spearmansburg, and when he goes around town, he can't really find anybody that needs any mail sent. If anything, some of these people just want to beat him up. And so he goes into the woods and meets a woodcutter / former toy maker named Klaus. And from one of their first interactions, Jesper accidentally leaves behind his bag, which contains a drawing he got from this kid. And when Klaus sees the drawing, and the kid seems to be living in misery, Klaus sends him a toy, and through that, the kids in the town start getting this idea of, hey, if we give our letters to Jesper, he'll deliver them to Klaus, and he'll give us a toy. So it's basically a Santa origin story, and a really good one at that. So what I like the most about the movie is how it came up with a lot of these creative origins behind the story of Santa. So like they explain things like things like how Klaus was able to find some reindeer. I told you before, I said when I was describing the premise, the kids get this idea of, hey, if we send letters to, if we give these letters to the postman Jesper, then he'll deliver them to Klaus so we can get his toys. Starting the tradition of that's how, kids, were started writing letters to Santa, and even, things like, how did, where did the imagery of like Santa flying across the sky came from. And it's done really, really naturally. Like it's done in a way where you don't exactly see it coming, it just, kind of happens. Like a perfect example is I could think of, for instance, in the scene where Klaus starts to use reindeer. What happens is so many of the kids start asking for toys that it starts to weigh down his sleigh. And what Klaus used to do is he used to have just one horse, and the horse won't go. So both Klaus and Jesper look around, and they see that they could use some of the reindeer that's living near Klaus's home. So that's where they get the idea. Another instance I could think of is in terms of the flying reindeer example. There's this one scene where Klaus and Jesper are trying to get away from these bad guys. They're pulling off some kind of an ambush, and in the ambush, Klaus and Jesper's sleigh goes flying through the sky, and this one kid sees it and is like, oh, so I think he flies through the sky, and that's how it works. So I really like, how it develops really naturally in that way. Another instance I could think of that actually is the development of the idea of the naughty list. So in a particular example, one of the kids is really mad at Jesper because he asked for a toy, But Jesper, especially having prior experience with how this kid and how he's mean to him, Jesper gives him a piece of coal that's at his house, and the kid is like, hey, I asked for a toy, why did I get coal? And in that scene, Jesper goes up to that kid and says, he convinces this kid that Klaus is aware of who's naughty and who's nice, and that he's got this naughty list. And so the kids realize, we have to, be good kids. We have to be good kids in order to receive presents. And actually, through that, it starts to make the town Smearensburg into a much nicer place. People are much nicer to each other, and it even starts to affect some of the adults. And another example, Jesper discovers that some of these kids don't know how to write, so he takes them to this teacher, and she's pretty hell-bent on leaving the town because she was convinced that, nobody seems to want to teach her. But then when Jesper is like, hey, teach these kids to learn how to write, from there, she starts to develop a school. These kids learn how to write, do math, and sing, and that kind of stuff. So I really like how, a lot of it unfolds, and like I said, it's done in a really natural sort of way. It doesn't feel like, a checkbox. It kind of feels like, it feels, really natural, and it happens because of the various circumstances that Klaus and Jesper are in. But if anything, it makes it so that the movie, it actually kind of makes you watch the movie, and you're always constantly guessing, what's going to happen next. And I really like movies that could pull that off. And I think in this movie, Klaus actually pulls it off in a really good way, where it legitimately makes you, constantly guess, what's going to happen next. And a lot of the, things about, a lot of the Santa origins that come about this movie, they come when you're honestly not expecting it. So I really like how the movie was able to pull that off. So I thought that was really great. I really like the performances in this movie, the animation. I really like the art style of Klaus. I think here I go again. Jason Schwartzman does a really good job playing Jesper. I will say, when the movie started, his personality reminded me a lot of Kuzco from The Emperor's New Groove, because he starts off the movie as a really prickly guy. He's kind of apathetic and kind of selfish and cocky. So it was just he kind of reminds me of Kuzco. But at the same time, I really like how Jesper was able to go from being that sort of apathetic guy, and he initially isn't, really digging this job of being sent to be a postman in Smearensburg. But by the end of the movie, he becomes, a much more caring person, and he becomes much more enthusiastic about his job. He realizes that, it's making Smearensburg into a much happier place, and the kids are really loving the toy. So I thought he was really good. J.K. Simmons also does a really good job playing Klaus. I really, liked his performance. I thought, he was a really endearing character and he also has a really tragic backstory in terms of, because the thing about Klaus, the character initially, is that he's not making toys at first. He's actually given away toys that he made long ago. Why does he have toys from all that long ago? I personally won't give that away in this review, because I really want, and especially people who haven't checked out the movie, you guys should see it for yourself. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. So I thought, so I just felt there's a lot of really great things in this movie, because it's so creative and really even heartwarming. I can't even talk much about the heartwarming scenes, since many of them are spoilers in this films, but I just, I really like the movie. In terms of negatives in this movie, there are some, but they really don't get in the way of me enjoying this movie at all. One I could think of is there are villains in this movie. A big reason why there's so much animosity in this town is because of these two fighting families. In fact, what gets the ball rolling in terms of the conflict of the fighting families is that these two kids, each coming from an opposing family, are playing with each other and playing with this one kid's toy frog that Klaus made. And of course the families are like, no, we are sworn enemies and we can't have any of that. And so you're expecting that they're going to do something to try to stop Klaus and Jesper. But they don't really start doing anything against Klaus and Jesper until, I would say, until the second half of the movie. And we're introduced to these villains kind of early on, somewhere in the beginning of the second act. So even though I was enjoying the movie, I was kind of wondering, when are these villains going to pop up? Not that obviously I really didn't want anything bad to happen to Jesper and Klaus, but it was like, oh, you established these villains, when are they going to show up? The other thing, too, is that I thought some of the music choices were kind of questionable. Like, they do use pop songs in a couple of the scenes, or like one scene in particular, they use this kind of rocking tune when Jesper realizes that, hey, these kids can give me letters to send to Klaus so that, he can send them toys. And they start playing this rock song, and I was like, that feels kind of out of place. But that doesn't take up the majority of the movie. So overall, I thought Klaus was a really heartwarming movie, a really smart movie, and a really creative one. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I really want to say much more in terms of because some of the heartwarming moments I think were really pleasing, and I really felt for the characters, but I would be spoiling the movie if I gave that stuff away. So I highly recommend it, especially to those who haven't seen the movie before. Or let me know in the comments below. Did you see Klaus? Did you like the movie? What did you personally think about it? Would you recommend it? Until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and thank you all for watching. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to leave a comment. Subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell to get notified when I release my latest videos. Follow me at Blood Moon Bobby on your favorite social media platforms to take part in polls, see my tech tips, and to hear about my video plans. Thanks for watching.